and we were talking about the experience of being forced into our homes and separated from one another. And what Rabbi Shapiro said to me then has stuck with me. He said, it almost feels like we've entered a covered bridge, and we don't know when we might emerge into the other side and into the light. You know, this illustration resonates with me because throughout the pandemic, we had 3 overarching goals. The first was to keep our community safe. The second, to find as many points of light on our way as possible, and that we could find those lights throughout the darkness. And the third was to never give up hope that we would emerge into the light once again. And though I know that COVID is still a very real challenge in our nation, today it feels so good, so right to be among you physically again, to see your faces, to share in a smile or an embrace, to wish each other in person Shabbat Shalom, to hear the awe-inspiring music and soulful prayers of Cantor Purper for the first time in person, to hear the meaningful words and wisdom and greet in person our new Rabbi Pozlowski, to feel the power of being together. That is what it feels like to emerge into the light. It may well be that language often finds many words for that which is most important to groups of people, like the myth that the Inuit have dozens of words for snow. It's a myth, by the way. In Hebrew, there are many words for community, but one of my favorite is kahal, because kahal means not just community, but gathering too. To gather or together is when we bring various parts of a whole to become something greater and more purposeful. Lahikahel, to gather, is to seek unity and therefore to be shalem, to be whole, and therefore to be shalom. That's who we are. Miles apart or right here together, we are a kahal, and we always will be. But what makes our kahal complete are the people that fill these chairs and therefore fill our hearts. I want to take this opportunity to say that we are more whole tonight because Rabbi Pozlowski is with us. In her first Shabbat service, Rabbi Pozlowski, as you will come to know, is an extraordinarily thoughtful, wise, and mature individual who will teach Torah and create connections with all of you. And we're so fortunate to have you among us, Rabbi. And may this be the beginning of beautiful friendships, of a career dedicated to the wholeness of our community and connections that will sustain the spirits of our kahal. And I know that you will find in this community special people who bring their wisdom and their righteousness forward in remarkable ways. May this relationship inspire us all. And so we are here with the sunshine beaming down upon us at the end of this covered bridge. May the words of the psalmist endure and inspire us. May they ring true as we turn to words of welcome and words of honest truth. How good and how pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell together in unity. Let us begin our Shabbat service with the singing of Hine Matov. Don't need a page number. We know it. We know these words. But let's join together. And in just a moment, we will continue with Shabbat Shalom and then Shalom Aleichem, which can be found on page 24 in your Siddur.
Rabbi, if I may take a second. At the end of this most cantorially, clerical, congregation, Kahalic, weird year of sitting in my basement and enjoying my own voice and not getting anything from the Kahal. I mean, I received a lot from you. We all did. We've received a lot from you on Zoom. I'm a bit verklempt to know that we can all be in the same space, finally together, that we can sing. So, all the melodies tonight, well, most of them are very familiar, so we'll be nice and comfortable together. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. לה 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 לה, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. לה 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 לה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
We'll continue together with Shalom Aleichem on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barechuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And we'll continue together on page 26 with our Chati Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דרכו בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם לעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו Amen.
We'll stand together as a community for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Adonai HaMevorach
Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. La 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 la. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 la, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
And we'll continue with the watchword of our faith, the Shema, on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We'll join together at the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Baruch atah Adonai Haporei sukat shalom aleinu Ve'al kol amo Yisrael Ve'al Yerushalayim.
We're a little out of order, but I think we would be remiss if we did not light the Shabbat candles and do Kiddush, yes? Oh, nope. And out of order again. That's at the end. Ignore me. Let's continue with the show.
We're going to continue with Yismechu on page 44. Yismechu v'malechutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Bekorei Oneg Shabbat Yismechu v'malechutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Bekorei Oneg Shabbat. We can sing together now. Mekadeshe Shevi Shabbat Kulam Yisbe'u Ve'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat Yismechu v'malechutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Ve'korei Oneg Shabbat Yismechu v'malechutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat Ve'korei Oneg Shabbat Uvashvi'i Ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat Chemdat yamim ot ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. למעשה וראשית שבת, זכר למעשה וראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. We'll continue with our Amidah, the core of our service, and we'll stand together on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufia gitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov. Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, u'mevi geula livnei b'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. We'll continue with the English at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael utfilatam ba'ahava tekabel. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha v'yirah na'avod. We'll continue together in the middle of page 58. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai our God and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving.
Page 60. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamavarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Feels good to be praying together again, doesn't it?
Yes.
To sing words of shalom, to sing words of wholeness, to sing words of peace. You know, as we turn to the Mishaberach prayer, I think it's important for us to not only think of those who are in need of healing, but for us to also think of the healers that have gotten us through this difficult time. To think of the doctors and the nurses, the emergency medical services that have provided such care and extraordinary strength through a time that was difficult. And so even as we turn to these words of healing, let us think of the healers. Let us think of all of the goodness that they've brought us during this time. We also think of those members of our community who are in need of a refuat hanefesh or refuat haguf, a healing of spirit or a healing of body. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of these dear people. We think of Shendel Batfrida Malka, Shirley Graham, Laura Bublitz, Keturah Bublitz, Ari Bublitz, Julie Borikoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Carrie Yudkovich, Otto Feller, Samsara Vizcaya, Sharon Rotman, Eliyahu Ben Maxinemela, Bob Ratke, Lyle Rubel, Mark Cook, Moshe Ben Nechama, Karen Pearson, Jean Bass, Alan Turner, Judy Weingarten, Myron Dvorkin, Sybil Savalsky, Esther Cohen, Lauren Cheris, Matt Cheris, Lisa Furstad, Terry Finch, Phil Himmelfarb, Vince Tomkowitz, Harav Ilana Miriam Barchava, Faye Levin, Sarah Chelba Yocheved Alexander, David Feldner, Gili Gollopel, Prue Precourt, Linda Berlin, Alan Elias, Bobby Mendelson, Tia Barrett, Wendy Salzberg, Adrian Kotradimos, Dennis Nath, Kim Toplinski, Leanne Boris, Steve Plotkin, Kathy Peltz, and Avram Ben Naftali. We turn now to words of healing as we say these words of tradition. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, the source of healing.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imoteinu Mikor HaBracha La'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
With these beautiful words of healing still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time for silent reflection.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Shabbat Shalom. It is wonderful to be here with all of you for the first back to in-person service and for my first service here at Congregation Shalom. I'm very excited to see all of your faces and get to know all of you over the course of my time here. So we will get started with my first sermon. In Ashkenazi Jewish tradition, we name our children after deceased relatives. We honor their memories by etching a piece of their spirit into the new generation. Along with mom's eyes and dad's smile, it is our hope that the child will inherit Tante Ethel's strength, Grandpa Carl's love of feeding the family at Jewish holidays, and Great Aunt Ruby's faith in God. We watch as they grow into their name, taking on characteristics of those who came before them, and carving a new path for themselves and those who will follow in their footsteps one day. This week's Torah portion, Pinchas, shares a rare phenomenon. After the plague that descended upon the Israelites in the wilderness passed, God commanded Moses to take another census. In it, the tribes and all of the families who make up their community are named. We hear of the family of Zelophehad from the tribe of Manasseh. Rather than continue on naming families in the next tribe, Ephraim, the text lifts up Zelophehad's daughters, for he has no sons. There we hear each of their names: Machlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. Each merit mention in our holy text. Their situation is unique, for as daughters, they do not automatically inherit their father's portion. In the verses that follow, these wise and faithful women advocate for and receive their rightful inheritance, their father's plot in the Holy Land. Machlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah offer us a model for exemplary leadership. Our text reads, Va'ata amodna lifnei Moshe, and they stood before Moses. They stood before him. What does it mean, though, to stand before someone? We see these words next to our ark on this side. They say, Da lifnei mi ata omed, know before whom you stand. Zelophehad's daughters knew both who stood in front of them and what they themselves stood for. Recently, the world watched as renowned tennis player Naomi Osaka showed the world what she stands for. She explained that she is a pretty anxious young woman when it comes to public relations and doing the press conferences at tennis matches, and that she would be forgoing those press conferences in order to focus more fully on her matches and do the best that she could. She shared online with the entire community and was rejected for that particular stance. They told her that they would take her out of the tournament if that was going to be her position. She stood in her power in that moment and said, I will not be doing the press conferences, and at this time it is best for me and my mental health to step back and try this tournament again in the future and have a conversation, an open, honest, frank conversation about mental health and the access that the media has to athletes. So she did a good job standing in her power, just as the daughters of Zelophehad stood in their power, knowing that they had a right to that inheritance that was their family's inheritance. Good leaders stand in their power. Good leaders also honor the legacy of their ancestors. In sharing that they wish to have the inheritance of their father, they shared several things. They said, our father dies in the wilderness. He was not one of the faction of Korah who were unfaithful to God. He died in his own sin. He had no sons, but why should our father's name be lost to his family? They knew that if they did not inherit and pass on what was rightfully their family's, that lineage would stop. That name would be no longer a part of the people of Israel. And it was very important to them that they be able to pass on their family and their characteristics to the next generation, and to have the physical entity, the land in the Holy Land, to be able to give down to the next generation. And another thing that good leaders do, the last of our important things this evening, is that they commit optimistically to the future. So there's a midrash on the daughters of Zelophehad in Yalkut Shimoni that they stand before Moses, and it asks at what time do they do that? And it is when the Israelites said, let us appoint Nitna, a leader, and let us return to Egypt. So they're in the middle of the wilderness. It's not going so great. They've just come out of a plague, and they said, we'd rather go back. We're not so excited about what is to come. And Moses said to the daughters of Zelophehad, Israel is asking to return to Egypt, and you are asking for an inheritance in Israel? And the daughters answered, we know that in the end, Israel will take possession of the Holy Land. So they had confidence and optimism that the future would hold great things. So they were able to see ahead and understand that the community had exciting things coming ahead for them. So great leaders stand in their power, they honor the legacy of their ancestors, and they commit optimistically to the future. Let us know and raise and be great leaders. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Pozlowski, so much for those wonderful words. I know that you are also the type of person that stands in your power and the type of person that understands. You have stood in the footsteps of extraordinary assistant rabbis at this congregation, and I know that we are so blessed to look to the future as well. with your leadership and with your words and with your wisdom here at Congregation Shalom. I count myself among those assistant rabbis, by the way, as one too. And so we are going to turn in our Siddur to page 282. It is a joy to call upon the Arnold family, who is here to step forward and open up our ark doors as we can rise together as we turn to the sacred words of Aleinu, page 282. And once again, it is so wonderful to be together, to share in these words, to share in these moments.
Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
You may be seated. It's important to think of our loved ones, particularly in moments such as these. People who have shared in this space and time with us, who have sat in these pews and these seats, as we think of all of the good that they've brought to our lives. Particularly in our hearts, we are thinking of dear people who have passed away in recent days. And we regret to inform you of the passing of Dennis Nathan. We think of those for whom we mark the period of Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period. We think of Jean Berman, Buzz Botwinick, Linnea Harrington, and Pearl Stein. We all walk in the footsteps of those who have walked this earth before us. We feel their presence with us, particularly in times such as these, times of celebration or times of sadness, when we yearn to share our hopes and our dreams and our thoughts. Particularly, we are thinking of Harold Altman, Ethel Latinsky, Alex Baer, Jean Cohen, Paula Cohen, Perry Dinkin, Michael Dubin, Mildred Elbaum, Pearl Epstein, Rosa Evans, Eva Frazen, Ann Garber, Michael David Goldberg, Lee Goodman, Shirley Green, Sidney Grossman, Bertram Hoffman, Bernice Holzman, Alan Kagan, Gerald J. Kahn, Q. Gary Knopo, Shirley A. Krause, Max Laufer, Milton Levy, Jack Levin, Louis Levine, Alan Miglowski, Albert Pearl, Marshall Pohl, Timothy Scott Ricken, Bertha Rotman, Helen Safer, Toby Sattler, Noah Norman Shapiro, Harry Scher, Rose Siegel, Jerry Silverman, Henry Skurnick, Shirley Solachek, Sylvia Francis Spiegel, Howard Swernoff, Armin Kenneth Taus, John Van Osh, Alan Wagner, Robert Weinberg, Anna Weinberger, Mary Wolfe, Jack Young, Edward Irving Zion, Moish Zucker, and Jerry Weintraub. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, please say those names as I look in your direction. May his memory be a blessing. May Barrett's memory be a blessing as well. May Claire's memory be a blessing. May the memories of all of our loved ones be a benediction in our lives. And just as we've mentioned the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who have lost their lives in that terrible condominium collapse that took place in Florida. We are thinking of them, and we are thinking of their dear families. We think of all those who have died due to war and or terrorism, all those who have died due to this terrible virus that struck our nation, as well as the virus of racism. We think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294. We rise together as one community as we utter these sacred words. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shmei rabba, bi'alma divrach hirute v'amlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. We may be seated. I think that since the very beginning of COVID, I've been waiting to hear Brent Arnold give the announcements in person. I know that I've been waiting, but certainly Brent Arnold has been waiting as the congregational president, and I think that no one is probably more excited to be here than Brent, but also no one has stewarded us through such an extraordinary time quite as well as Brent, too. So, Brent, we are grateful to you for all that you do as our president of the congregation, particularly through these difficult times, and so joyous that we are going to get to hear you deliver these announcements from this bima. Shabbat Shalom, Brent.
Thank you, Rabbi Noah. It's going to feel a little different not talking to a computer right now, but what a blessing it is to be back here in our sanctuary with all of you tonight. I've been waiting, as Rabbi said, for this day for a long, long, long time. And it feels so good to be here in the same place with Rabbi Noah leading us in prayers, hearing the amazingly talented voice of Cantor Perper, and getting to come together as a Shalom community once again. This past year, we have had a lot to pray for, and I hope that we are now at a point where those prayers are starting to be answered. Our entire staff has been working hard to make sure that this remains our special place of worship. Thank you so much for joining us for Shabbat here tonight. I again want to wish a mazel tov to Rabbi Noah and to Linda Hollyfield for celebrating their 10th year anniversaries here at Congregation Shalom. Really, 10 wonderful years. We all really appreciate all their energy, their pride and character that you're both putting into this wonderful congregation. Our choir rehearsals are starting back up on Mondays at 7 o'clock p.m. here in our Samson Sanctuary. They're already starting to prepare for high holidays. So please reach out to Cantor Perper. Say that again. Please reach out to Cantor Perper if you're interested in joining the choir. I just love hearing their voices, and I can't wait to hear them for Rosh Hashanah. Tonight we welcome our new Rabbi, Taylor Pozlowski, to our community as she begins her rabbinate here at Congregation Shalom. Rabbi Kozlowski brings to Shalom a degree in religious services from William Jewell College, along with a master's degree and her rabbinic ordination from the Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati. Rabbi Kozlowski is energetic, genuine, and sincere, and will be a great addition to Congregation Shalom. Please take the time tonight to say hello and introduce yourself to her. Look for more upcoming opportunities to get to know her as well and other programming. Welcome, Rabbi Kozlowski. Brian Avner is our new Director of Lifelong Learning, will then be joining us later this month when he returns from his summer camp participation at Camp Olin St. Ruby. We look forward to Brian contributing to continue to make Shalom's religious school the best religious school in the state. Maybe I'm a little biased, but. Our membership committee will be meeting on Monday, July 19th at 7 o'clock, so feel free to reach out to our co-chairs, David Wolfson or Charlie Goodman, if you would enjoy joining the membership committee. Our next Voices for Justice Committee meeting is coming up on Thursday, July 22nd at 7 o'clock, led by our chairs, Larry and Geely Gallipol. Please feel free to join us if social justice is one of your passions. Our Shalom Dayenu Circle started up this week to take a bold action towards restoring clean air, fresh water, and untainted lands. We joined this national organization with an upcoming debriefing session on Thursday, July 8th at 7:30 p.m. So reach out to David Wolfson if interested or find more info in the Shalom Weekly email. The next Shalom Dayenu Circle meeting is scheduled for July 28th, following our Minyan service. And just a quick reminder that our Torah study will start tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock right here in Clearfield Hall. And then Shabbat services will follow at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning in our sanctuary. Daily Minyan and What's New are also back here in person, which is awesome. And we will be closed, however, on Monday for the 4th of July holiday. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you all for doing your best to remain connected to Congregation Shalom over the past 16 months. I know it has been a challenge at times, but we appreciate your continued support and dedication. Tonight marks the start of moving in a very positive direction for our congregation. I wish you all a very happy and healthy 4th of July weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Asher Koach.
Thank you.
So let us turn now to the lighting of our Shabbat candles. That's what's on the sheet, like the cantor gave me. Shabbat candles first. And I think it is absolutely right to invite Rabbi Kozlowski to kindle the Shabbat candles as she is beginning to bring light to our community. Let that light shine forth not only throughout our community and our congregations, but also within our hearts. So we turn now to page 2, and let's rise together as we light the Shabbat candles. We now turn to the Kiddush, and it's right and appropriate that we turn to our dear cantor to lift up the Kiddush cup, Cantor Purpur. Our cup is overflowing with blessings because of all of the soulful music that you bring to our community, to our congregation. It is a joy to share the Bima with you, and we are going to turn now to page 5 as we join together in the singing of Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila le'mikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-shabbat Shabbat Shalom L'chaim.
L'chaim. Before we, okay.
I just want to take 1 second while Cantor Berman is here. When Cantor started the congregation, every congregation says to the new cantor, "We're a singing congregation, don't worry." And sometimes you get crickets. So thank you, Cantor Berman, for leading you along and making a wonderful singing congregation for me to be a part of. Thank you very much.
Before we turn to our closing hymn, there is a closing benediction that we've done at Congregation Shalom probably as long as I've been here, probably before, which is when we implore God to bring a sense of wholeness and peace from the high heavens down into the earth. That sense of wholeness, that sense of peace, that sense of shalom only happens when we're together, when we're a community. Thank you, Cantor Berman, for leading us so beautifully for all these years, continuing to lead us spiritually, the songs of their soulful quality, as well as to those for whom we share the bima today. And all of you. You bring the soul to shalom, to be together, hearing your voices lifted in prayer and song. That's what brings us a sense of peace and a sense of wholeness. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen.
Shabbat shalom, 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 Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.